Hello golfers, this is Kevin Ralbovsky here with you again at Ko'olau Golf Course. I'm standing on the 15th tee box on this beautiful day. You can see the backdrop is just incredible. If you haven't played Ko'olau in a long time, this is what you're missing when you catch it on a day like today. It's absolutely stunning, second to none. So come on out when all this is back to normal. Unfortunately, we have one more month of staying indoors, so please practice your swing and your flexibility indoors. Please watch these videos, press like if you can, subscribe to my channel. That way you'll get notified when my next video is posted. Today I'm going to cover the dreaded over-the-top downswing. So this is very common amongst amateur golfers, higher handicaps. Generally anyone over about a 14 has some kind of over-the-top move. If it's slight, you can be a decent golfer. If it's extreme, you're going to really suffer and be a higher handicap. So today I'm going to give you 10 ways to stop coming over the top in your downswing. So first, let's define what over the top is. So over the top means you are in your downswing, you're coming over the top of the swing plane. So without making this too complicated, I put a stick here and extended it through my golf club just to give you a visual reference. I've also drawn a chalk line on an arc. So an arc is a curve. So our hand path moves on an arc around our body up the plane because we're turning. Okay? So the swing is mostly governed by rotation. So if I go to address like this, set the club behind the ball, my takeaway, the shaft is parallel to the ground, my stick is parallel to the ground, parallel to the target line, right? I start to turn. Now that stick that's extending in my golf club, that's going to start pointing towards the target line, right? As I keep going up, I keep turning. The stick is pointing over there, but it's on the target line, right? So my club is on plane. Now I come down, I shift my weight, I retrace that line so the stick is pointing on the target line all the way back down. Come back into delivery, parallel, then the wrists uncock. Boom, I've hit the ball. That's a very neutral swing path that should give you a fairly straight shot. So swing path is related to swing plane. The club at shafts got to be tracing the target line all the way up and all the way down. And if you can keep it consistent, it's the simplest way to do it. There are guys that get off plane in the backswing and then save it in the downswing. That takes years and years of practice. Not everybody can do that. So we want to keep it as simple as possible. So the reasons why a golfer would come over the top of the swing plane, so I'll show you what that looks like. Here we go with the takeaway, we go up to the top, let's say looking pretty good, right? And then over the top, boom, I unwind, I uncoil right away. Now most of you know that you're doing that because you can see the divots going left, or perhaps you've seen your swing on video before, but it's very difficult to solve it, right? How do you stop doing that? And it's correlated to a lot of factors. There's not just one or two easy solutions to it. It's better to have a more in-depth sort of focus, try to cover as many bases as possible. Maybe one of these 10 things will be the missing piece that will unlock the mystery of coming from the inside. So let's get to it. And this is in no order of significance. These are just 10 reasons why you're coming over the top. Reason number 1, ball position. So if your ball position is too far forward in your stance, let's say opposite your left foot, and I go here to address like this, I go make my backswing. Now if I start down correctly, using my lower body and try to come from the inside, the ball is no longer in the path of the club. So I'll top it. So because by that point, the club is coming up on the ball. So what the golfer will do is they'll start to come over in that direction just to make contact. Right? So this notion that you should play the ball opposite your left foot, that is really maybe for tour pros with the driver and more of a fade characteristic. Right? So if you're an average golfer, I would play the ball in the middle of the stance. right? So think of the swing as the face of a clock, right? So the ball in the middle of the stance, that's your 12 o'clock position, right? So 1 o'clock's here, 2 o'clock's here, 3 o'clock's here, 4 o'clock's here. So I go back in my backswing clockwise. Then I come back down, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 1 is from the inside. Then it squares up at 12. Then 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, back over to 6 again, right? So that's an easy way to think of the golf swing, and that yellow line helps represent the face of the clock as well, right? So ball position in the middle will definitely encourage you to swing more from the inside. And the second reason you're coming over the top also is related, and this is again at address, your grip and your arm positions. So if I have, let's say, the ball forward in my stance, my right hand tends to get on top too much, my right shoulder gets very high, right? So you can see I'm already in a position that favors an over-the-top downswing. So I want to put that ball in the middle. I want to rotate my left hand over about 45 degrees. I want to rotate my right hand under about 45 degrees. So that pinches my right elbow down and in. If I can keep my right elbow in that down and in position, I'll never come over the top, right? So that left's got to be stronger, right, on top, and the right's got to be more passive underneath, right? So when you look at this, my left elbow is pointing almost towards the target line. My right elbow, the eye of the elbow is pointing upward, and my right elbow is also pinched in. Right? So if I can maintain that feeling all the way up and all the way down, I won't change the arc. Right? It'll be very consistent. Okay. So the third reason, also at address, is your head alignment, your head and neck position. So sometimes this has to do with eye dominance. Some people have a strange tilt to their head, right? So the eyes aren't level, and the angle of the head is either excessively tilted to the left or even sometimes tilted to the right. But if any time you see a golfer in that position, they're going to hit a fade. So my right ear is high, my left ear is low. If anything, I want to do the opposite, right? I want to bring my head down so my right ear is closer to my right shoulder, right? So that the lines are parallel. My shoulders and my eye line is fairly parallel. Eye line square is fine, but to hit a draw, you might go a little bit more parallel, and you even might turn your nose slightly towards 1 o'clock. So that would look like this. So from here, I almost don't have to do anything. I'm going to almost automatically come from the inside and hit a draw, as long as I don't change it, right? So it's not to say that it's not possible. I can go right and go right to there again at the top, right? So you've got to train yourself to keep your eyes more level, maybe a little bit of head rotation, and that will, again, visually and perspective-wise, allow you to come from the inside very easily. Right? So the swing path is following the alignment of your eyes, your head, and your neck, somewhat. So you want to pay attention to that. So those first three things were all at address. Now we're going to start looking at the swing. And so the first correlation to over-the-top downswing is how you go back in the backswing. So first of all is when we go to address, let's say we're set up in the correct position, and then my first move off the ball, I bring the club inside too abruptly. So if I bring my right elbow around my rib cage like this, if I start turning my hips immediately, right, I start sucking in that club, now I've got nowhere else to go, it's going to go roundhouse and come back around, right? That's called getting trapped or getting stuck. So the solution to this is at address, right? I don't move my hips in the takeaway, right? If anything, the hands are working a little bit more linearly just into the takeaway. And then I start my rotation up, keeping my elbows together and in front of my chest. At no time do I want to have that elbow suck back behind my hip. Right? It's always staying in front of my hips, always staying in front of my chest. Right? So I don't want to suck in the elbow and I don't want an early turn, right? So that also somewhat can relate to the second part of the flaw of the backswing, which leads to over the top, and that is a flat shaft plane. So let's say I rotate my hands too much and I get that shaft, you know, pointing almost horizontal above the swing plane, right? Now my shoulder flattened out, my club flattened out, I start to go back up, so I've got nowhere out to hit. In order to hit the ball, I've got to come back this way. So then my, you know, what happens is, gets too flat, shaft's pointing above the ball, above the plane, my weight gets into my heels, and then now it goes way into my toes and over the top, and that oftentimes is a cause of a shank as well. So you see this very common when people have a tendency to shank the ball. You see that shaft halfway back too flat. So what that does is it causes the weight to go towards the toes in the downswing, and it causes that over the top move. So you want to be really careful about your backswing. Right? Make sure that you keep that shaft on plane. So the last thing, and this is as we get to the top, is now your left arm position. So again, it's dangerous. We don't want to suck it in. We don't want to be flat, but then we don't want the left arm too high either, right? So if I bring my left arm very upright like this, right, and then I start my downswing, my unwinding is going to be steep and over the top, right? Sometimes we'll see golfers like this, and then they try to save it, right? And then it's even more problematic, right? So left arm, ideally, for minimum amount of adjustments, should be right across your shoulder line, right? Just like that. So this would be a left arm that's too upright. This would be a left arm that's too flat, right? So we want to create that nice line of energy back down towards the ball. So left arm position at the top, if it's upright, you're going to have, the only way you can get it back down is if you reverse loop it. So there are golfers that get way up like this, right? And then they loop it back. Again, complexity. If you look at it from this angle, if I go way upright like this, you can see I'm not turning either. Right? So if I follow the clock, take away, turn, get the left arm more on the shoulder line, then look how beautiful my rotation looks. Right? So you can see the symmetry when it's done well. Okay, the seventh thing, again, we're still at the top of the backswing, is the shaft position. Either getting too long and crossing the line at the top. So what that means is, here's my address, take away, everything's looking good, all of a sudden I let my elbows and wrists flex, and now my shaft's way over here like this. Right? And then what's gonna happen is I start the unwinding, shaft's gonna be too steep, I'll either continue the unwinding, cut across the ball, maybe chicken wing, and then the ball slices back, right? Or again, I'm gonna have to, figure out the compensation, kind of the excessive dropping under, right? Which gets a lot of sometimes tour pros, stuck into a pushing or blocking position. So again, you want to try to clean that up as much as possible. Yes, you can see examples of people cross the line and be somewhat successful, but again, a lot of practice, probably not the simplest way to approach that. That crossing the line position is often caused by too much flexion of the elbows and the wrists, and also a backswing that's too fast. So if I just whip the club back, right, everything tends to fold and collapse at the top, which causes that crossing the line position. So again, ideally, we'd like to be more on plane. Now is a good time to practice on plane, and you can do that in the mirror at home. And for a lot of you, slowing down the backswing, feeling that width at the top, especially with your wrists, right? Not letting it, drop down too much. That's very, very important. Number 8. So number 8, I covered this a little bit. already when we talked about the arm plane being upright. Number 8 is not turning enough. So in the golf swing, we want to turn at least 90 degrees, so back to the target. Right? So if I take the shaft, put it across my shoulders, make the rotation, my hips are turning 45 degrees, my knees are turning about 20 degrees. Left knee goes in, right knee goes back, left hip comes in, right hip comes back, left shoulder goes in, right shoulder goes back. Right? Trying to stay in the center. Right? I don't want to move over there too much. The teeter-tottering can again create complexity. Right? So try to stay right in the middle, like the turn in the barrel idea. Turn your back to the target. Right? So a lot of you don't do that. And so sometimes you're not turning your hips. Sometimes the foot flare is the problem. Sometimes the head is the problem. Sometimes just the concept of the arc, right? So if I go back, here's 12 o'clock. If I follow that yellow line, here's the takeaway. Now I'm gonna go up the plane, right? The shaft is pointing at the stick, but I'm also going around the axis. So I feel like I'm at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock. And then, so that's the curve of the swing. That will help you turn. So if you go back clockwise, your body will automatically turn. Right? So if I don't turn and I just lift up like this, it's very easy to come straight over the top every time. And we get a swing that's too arm and shoulder dominated with the downswing. What we want to do is we want to wind up. Just like if I was a discus thrower, I'd take it back like this. I'd turn, I'd wind up. That's where all the energy is created. Okay, so now we've covered 1 through 8, address, backswing, top. The last 2 are the downswing. So number 9 is once I get to the top, and let's say I've done 1 through 8 fairly well. Let's say I'm in the ballpark. What is my intention really? So I think again, people trying to swing straight tend to come over the top because they're not visualizing the arc, right? So number 1 is if you feel like your divot's going left a lot and you're cutting across the ball, number 1, make your intention simply to swing towards the right. That's a very, very easy way to approach it. So to do that, I have to again think of the arc. I can think about 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, coming in this direction. I can think about hitting the inside quadrant of the ball, right? So that's an age-old trick. Also, in the downswing, I want to make sure my right foot, my intention is to swing to the right. My right foot is pronating inward first. Right? So that helps you deliver the club from the inside towards the right, towards the first baseline. Right? So if I immediately pop that foot, pop it like that, right? Everything follows. So sometimes we see that early right foot action, leads to that look. Watch me pronate, moves my hips laterally when I pronate my foot. That keeps my right shoulder under. Keeps the club coming from the inside. So again, intention, monitor your right foot in the downswing, and then the start down is number 10. So starting down, right? So we already talked about your intention, and now your upper body has to feel relaxed and more passive. So here I am at the top, tight, right? Shoulders tight. Right shoulder is close to my ear, right? A lot of tension. So a lot of golfers are there, they don't even realize it. So you've got to start to, okay, where are my shoulders? My shoulders should be down, right? In more of a relaxed state, right? And then my arms are passive, right? I'm not, like this, trying to hit the ball like an axe, right? Arms are passive, more like throwing the ball, right? So there's a whip-like action to it. My arm feels very rubbery, right? Shoulders are down. My shoulders are in depression, right? So here's shoulders in elevation, and that's depression. Elevation, depression, right? So you want to practice that a little bit so you know what the different feel is. So here I go at address, take away, turn to the top, clubs on plane, right? My shoulders are in depression, and my arms are relaxed, like rubber. Now I practice using the lower body, shifting the weight, delivering the club. My intention is to go to the right from the inside quadrant, right foot's pronating, and just practicing this feel over and over again. Boom, I'm through the ball. So doing it without a ball is rehearsing and repeating the movement, so your brain is starting to feel and build on it, right? So it's something that takes a lot of time. We can't get this like this. We want it instantaneously. We want one little tip, one little secret that will change our game, right? Now that is possible if you've got, let's say, 8 out of 10 things, 9 out of 10 things. Sometimes just that one missing piece might be all you need. Some of you are going to need all 10 of these, right, in order to stop coming from over the top. So again, you want to, I will list down below in the description all 10 of these ideas to stop coming over the top. And I hope that helps you. And please continue to practice indoors and outdoors if you have a backyard, and you can use a net and maybe some foam balls or real balls. And mirror is always great. If you like this video, please press the like button. Please subscribe to my channel, and I'll give you more content to come. Wishing everybody health and happiness and good golfing days ahead.